The HOA sent to biker thugs to intimidate my wife and destroy our garden, but what happened next had them begging me to stop. You won't believe how this ended. It was just another quiet morning in our suburban neighborhood. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon, casting a soft golden glow on the dew-covered grass. Sarah, my wife, was seated on the porch, cradling a warm cup of coffee, her favorite way to start the day. Our home was nestled in a corner of the community, with neat houses and well-kept lawns, everything as peaceful as ever. We had lived here for years, growing comfortable in the rhythm of daily life. The neighbors were friendly, the streets were quiet, and our little garden had always been something Sarah and I took pride in. But even in this serene setting, there was one constant thorn in our side: the HOA, or Homeowners Association. They were notorious for their overbearing rules and constant nitpicking. This morning, I could sense an unease in the air, but I didn't think much of it. I kissed Sarah on the cheek and headed to work, leaving her to enjoy her coffee. Little did I know, this peaceful morning would soon turn into something far more unsettling. A few days earlier, we had received a letter from the HOA. It was a typical complaint letter, accusing us of breaking some vague, unspecified rule. This time, it was about our garden, a small flower bed Sarah had planted in front of the house. According to the letter, it didn't meet the HOA's aesthetic standards, though no one had ever complained before. It felt like yet another attempt to control every detail of our lives. At first, we shrugged it off. The letter was just one in a long line of similar complaints over the years, but as the days passed, we noticed something was different. We started receiving phone calls from Mr. Foster, the HOA president, pressing us to take down the garden or face penalties. His tone was harsh, almost threatening. He was insisting we make the changes by the end of the week, or else they'd send someone over to handle it. Sarah had always been calm and collected, but even she was starting to get frustrated. This was ridiculous. It was just a garden, for crying out loud. We decided to ignore the demand, hoping it would blow over. But we were wrong. It wasn't going to stop here. The following Tuesday, Sarah was home alone. She'd planned to spend the afternoon gardening and relaxing in the sun. As she was pulling weeds from the flower bed, a deep rumble filled the air. It wasn't the usual hum of neighborhood traffic. It was the unmistakable sound of motorcycle engines. Before she could react, two men on large, intimidating bikes revved up to our driveway, kicking up dust behind them. They wore dark leather jackets and helmets, and their presence alone seemed to scream trouble. Sarah's heart raced. She wasn't expecting anyone, certainly not these two thugs. The bikers got off their bikes and approached her with a cocky swagger. One of them, a tall man with a rough face, stepped forward, his voice gravelly. "You're going to need to rip out this garden, lady. It's not up to code." Sarah froze. "Excuse me." The second biker stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. "You heard him. You've got until the end of the day to get rid of it, or the HOA will be dealing with you. You don't want that." The tension was thick. Sarah didn't know what to say or do. The HOA had gone too far this time. These men weren't even officials, they were hired muscle, sent to intimidate us into compliance. Her hands shook as she reached for her phone to call me, but before she could dial, the bikers circled around, blocking her path. "You think we're joking?" one of them sneered. "Get rid of it now, or else." By pure chance, I had come home early that day. I'd been working on a project at the office and decided to stop by to check on Sarah. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw the two bikers standing in front of the house, towering over Sarah like a pair of predators. My blood ran cold. Without thinking, I slammed the car door and rushed toward them. They turned as I approached, their expressions shifting from cocky to cautious. They clearly hadn't expected me to show up. "Everything okay?" I asked Sarah, keeping my tone calm but steely. She glanced at the bikers, still shaken. "They're threatening to tear out the garden. They said the HOA sent them." I turned to face the bikers, who were now sizing me up. "What's this about?" The taller of the two spoke first. "We're just following orders. The HOA wants the garden gone." I felt a rush of anger, but I kept it under control. "Think it's okay to send people to intimidate my wife?" I asked, my voice cold. One of the bikers smirked. "You don't want to mess with us. Do what we say, or things get ugly." I took a deep breath, not letting their threats rattle me. I wasn't some helpless bystander, and I wasn't going to let them bully my wife or me. Here's the thing, I said, my voice firm. You can tell Mr. Foster, or whoever sent you, that this ends now. I'm not going to let anyone intimidate my family, and I certainly won't let them send thugs to do their dirty work. The bikers looked at each other, surprised by my unflinching stance. One of them started to speak, but I cut him off. You have two choices. You leave right now, and I forget this happened, or you stay, I call the cops. And we'll see how the whole likes dealing with a harassment charge. I could see their resolve starting to falter. The tough exterior was crumbling. They hadn't expected me to fight back, and they weren't sure how to handle it. The taller biker hesitated. I stood my ground, unwavering. The silence stretched for a long moment, and then something changed. The tough guy smirked nervously and took a step back. Look, we didn't want trouble. We were just doing our job. The whole of your job, I interrupted, stepping closer. Your job is to bully innocent people. That's a real low point for you, isn't it? They exchanged another glance, and it was clear the power had shifted. The biker who had been the most aggressive was now the most submissive. He straightened up and wiped his forehead. We don't want any trouble, man. Just let this go, all right? We're not looking for problems with you. Now, they were the ones begging me to stop. Finally, the bikers backed off. We're leaving. Just don't call the cops, all right? One of them muttered as they climbed onto their bikes. They revved the engines and took off, disappearing down the street, leaving only the sound of their roaring engines behind. I turned to Sarah, who was still shaken but now visibly relieved. Are you okay? I am now, she said softly, giving me a small smile. Thank you. I called the HOA right after they left, making it clear that I wouldn't tolerate harassment or intimidation tactics. Mr. Foster tried to brush it off, but I didn't let him. I told him that if he ever sent anyone to our home again, it would be his last mistake. From that day on, the HOA learned not to mess with us. As for the bikers, they never came back. Sarah and I took down the garden, not because the HOA had won, but because we'd stood our ground, and we were no longer afraid of their threats.